Okay, so today we're going to break down a pretty controversial argument, the case for polygyny. Now, this whole explainer is based on the work of an author named Coach De Bruyns. And just to be clear, our job here isn't to take a side, but to really unpack his logic, one slide at a time, to see exactly how he builds his case. So, where does the author even begin? Well, he kicks things off by challenging a core assumption we all have about relationships. He asks this question: is lifelong monogamy really the norm? Or when you look at the actual data, is it the statistical exception? This question right here sets the stage for everything that follows. So how does he back that up? He goes straight to the data, specifically from the CDC. Now, if you look at the numbers here for adults between 25 and 49, only about 17% of women and just 11% of men say they've had only one partner in their lifetime. And for the author, this isn't just a number on a page. It's Exhibit A that what we actually do is way different from the ideal we talk about. All right, so using that data as his launchpad, he starts to build his first major point. See, before he can even argue for polygyny, he feels he has to make a strong case against how monogamy actually functions in the modern world. This slide really gets to the heart of his critique. On one side, you have the ideal, this idea of a single partnership for life, but on the other, you have what he calls the messy reality. He argues that this gap, this hypocrisy, leads to what he calls serial monogamy, a bunch of temporary relationships with no real long-term accountability. So if the way we practice monogamy is the problem, what's his solution? Well, this is where he flips the script. He presents polygyny not as some kind of chaotic free-for-all, but as the exact opposite, a highly structured system that's designed to create social order, accountability, and even protection. And to really frame the problem he's trying to solve, he uses this very provocative term, sexual communism. It's his label for the modern dating landscape. His logic is that, kind of like economic communism, it's a system with no private ownership or accountability, which he believes just leads to chaos, the spread of STDs, and societal breakdown. And to really hammer home the hidden risk of that system, he drops this pretty dramatic quote. He's making the point that in a world of serial monogamy, it's not just about your direct partners. It's about this huge invisible network of connections you're inheriting from them. And this chart is meant to visualize that exponential risk. The author's model shows that if you and your partners each have an average of, say, 10 partners, then by just 6 degrees of separation, you're connected to a network of hundreds of thousands of people. To him, this is basically a public health crisis hiding in plain sight. So this really brings us to the core of his comparison. He presents society with two choices. On one side, you have polygyny, which he frames as a closed-loop system. It's contained, relationships are accountable, and it protects people. On the other side, you have promiscuity, an open-loop system of chaos. It's his fundamental dichotomy, order versus disorder. Okay, so moving on from the big societal picture, the author makes another claim that's, well, it's even more surprising. He argues that polygyny can actually save a marriage by fixing what he sees as its inevitable decline. He kind of paints this picture that he thinks a lot of people will recognize. It starts with a happy couple, right? Early bliss. But then life happens, complacency kicks in, and the attraction starts to fade. From his perspective, an affair often reignites that spark through jealousy and competition, what he calls the mistress effect. And he then positions polygyny as the legitimate, open, honest way to introduce that same dynamic to save the marriage. And, he doesn't stop there. He tries to bring some biology into it, too. Based on this chart, he claims that male and female libidos are just, well, they're fundamentally out of sync over a lifetime. He points out that a woman's often peaks just as a man's might be starting to decline. And in his view, polygamy offers a pragmatic way to solve this natural imbalance. And this quote right here captures a really counterintuitive part of his argument. He's saying that the very thing that makes a monogamous marriage strong is the husband's attractiveness to other women. The possibility of polygyny, in his view, actually validates the wife's choice and keeps the husband desirable. It's a pretty wild idea. All right, for the final piece of his argument, we're shifting gears from social order and marriage to something way more tangible, money. He makes the case that polygyny isn't just a relationship model, but it's an economic engine for prosperity. He kicks off his whole economic case with just one number, 22%. So what is that? Well, according to him, that's the percentage of men who can actually afford that traditional single-income family ideal with 3 to 5 kids. His takeaway? The model itself is economically broken for almost 80% of the population. And this image really gets at that conflict. You have this cultural dream of a large, happy, provided-for family, and then it just crashes into the hard economic reality for most men. So the author presents polygyny as a cooperative, teamwork-based solution to this economic pressure. So how exactly does polygyny fix this, according to him? Well, he lays out a few key economic perks. For one, it could create multiple household incomes. It could completely eliminate childcare costs by sharing the labor. It provides a built-in workforce for a family business or a homestead. It's all about building collective wealth and becoming more resilient. So when you put it all together, how does he wrap this up? Well, his conclusion basically reframes the entire debate. He says this isn't about a lifestyle choice. It's a choice between two totally different systems for organizing society. And there it is, right on the screen. This distills his entire argument down to one idea. He says, look, you're mistaken if you think the choice is between monogamy and polygamy. He claims the real choice society faces is between a regulated, accountable system on one side and his concept of sexual communism or unregulated chaos on the other. And that's where we'll leave it. The whole argument we've just walked through really frames relationships as a system, a set of rules that are designed to create social order. Which kind of leaves us all with a big question to think about. In our world today, what rules, if any, should really govern our partnerships?